Epidemic. An epidemic is the rapid spread of infectious disease to a large number of people in a given population within a short period of time, usually 2 weeks or less. For example, in meningococcal infections, an attack rate in excess of 15 cases per 100,000 people for 2 consecutive weeks is considered an epidemic. Epidemics of infectious disease are generally caused by several factors, including a change in the ecology of the host population, increased stress or increase in the density of vector species, a genetic change in the pathogen reservoir, or the introduction of an emerging pathogen to a host population by movement of pathogen or host. Generally, an epidemic occurs when host immunity to either an established pathogen or newly emerging novel pathogen is suddenly reduced below that found in the endemic equilibrium and the transmission threshold is exceeded, according to this encyclopedia article. I'm just reading here. An endemic may be restricted to one location. However, if it spreads to other countries or continents and affects a substantial number of people, it may be termed a pandemic. The declaration of an epidemic usually requires a good understanding of a baseline rate of incidence. Epidemics for certain diseases such as influenza are defined as reaching some defined increase in incidence above this baseline. A few cases of a very rare disease may be classified as an epidemic, while many cases of a common disease, such as the common cold, will not. Read about the causes, common source of outbreak, propagated outbreak, transmission, response, etymology. There are several changes that may occur in an infectious agent that may trigger an epidemic. These include increased virulence, introduction to novel setting, changes in host susceptibility to the infectious agent. An epidemic disease is not required to be contagious, and the term has been applied to West Nile fever and the obesity epidemic, among others. The conditions which govern the outbreak of epidemics include infected food supplies, such as contaminated drinking water, and the migration of populations of certain animals, such as rats, mosquitoes, which can act as disease vectors. Certain epidemics occur at certain seasons. For example, whooping cough occurs in spring, whereas measles produces two epidemics, one winter and one in March. Influenza, the common cold, and other infections of the upper respiratory tract, such as sore throat, occur predominantly in the winter. There is another variation both as regards the number of people affected and the number who die in successive epidemics. The severity of successive epidemics rises and falls over periods of 5 or 10 years. Common source outbreak. In a common source outbreak, the affected individuals had an exposure to a common agent. If the exposure is singular and all of the affected individuals develop the disease over a single exposure and incubation course, it can be termed a point source outbreak. If the exposure was continuous or variable, it can be termed a continuous outbreak or intermittent outbreak, respectively. Read about propagated outbreak. If a propagated outbreak, the disease spreads person to person. Affected individuals may become independent reservoirs, leading to further exposures. Many epidemics will have characteristics of both common source and propagated outbreaks. For example, secondary person-to-person spread may occur after a common source exposure, or environmental vector may spread a zoonotic diseases agent. Transmission: airborne transmission, anthropode transmission. This transmission takes place by insect. Biological transmission, passing the stage of development of the infecting agent in an intermediate host. Colostral transmission, a form of vertical transmission via successive generations. Contact transmission. The disease agent is transferred directly by biting, sucking, chewing, or indirectly inhalation of droplets, drinking of contaminated water, traveling in contaminated vehicles. Cyclopropagative transmission, developmental transmission, fecal oral transmission, ingestion, hosts and feces, infected host and feces, horizontal transmission, mechanical transmission, propagative transmission, vertical transmission. Read about the response by Bill Gates. Effective preparations for a response to a pandemic are multi-layered. Gates proposed that the world responded slowly to the Ebola virus outbreak because of lack of preparation. So read about the list of epidemics, pandemic, biosecurity, epidemic model, epidemiology, overpopulation, endemic, attack rate, syndemic, Center for Disease Prevention Control. Read all about epidemic, epidemic, epidemic.